Hello everyone, we'll learn about the looks code block today. So what is the looks code block? Looks code block help in changing the costume, the sprite size, the direction. It also helps in providing text messages or show or hide the sprites. It also helps in changing the backdrop in the project code. It also allows to change the backdrop sprite and also helps provide a stimulus to the other code blocks based on what is the costume of a sprite or what is the backdrop which we have changed to. These are all the separate subblocks within the looks code block, and we will learn through each of them in our code today. This is what our project screen is going to look like. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get started. Today we'll learn about looks code block and the different options available in looks. So there are all the way from say to change to show to hide. So let's go one by one. Now for today's video, let's delete the cat sprite and add a new sprite so that you know how to do that. And let's take a bear walking. Cool. So now we have our bear and we'll use the first one. So if you recollect what's the very first step we need to do, we need to go to the events block and go to the when green flag click so that we know when we want the whole program to execute. So let's take say hello for 2 seconds. That's what it means. When you click the flag, the bear will say hello for 2 seconds and it will just stop. Now if you want to say hello for less than 2 seconds, you can change this. It will say that, or hello, how are you, hope you're doing great. You can just type any amount of message here. So let's see that. Great. So this is good, when you are having to give some user inputs or give some text message in the window. This is very useful. So now this was for seconds, and now this will just say hello once and it will just say there. It's going to be there for a while. The other one, if you see, is like think block. And as you could see, the difference here is this hello comes in like a circle block. Think would be more like in a cloud block, as if he's thinking and not really saying anything for you. So it works the same way. It has a finite second duration, and the next think block is think, which will remain there unless and until we have our next code block. So let's say we have say and then we say hello. You will see the difference between the two. Now it's so fast that we don't even see the thing. So for now, I'll just introduce one more block called, let's say, wait. We'll keep it between the two, and now you will see how it works. So it says for 1 second and then switches to hello. So if it was too fast, let's make it 3 seconds. So it says it's thinking for 3 seconds and then it will switch back to hello. So these are very powerful blocks which we'll use in the bigger code scheme. Now let's go next to the switch costume block. So if you recollect, we go to the sprite and we click on the costume sections. So for this walking bear, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 costumes. So it gives a pretty good effect. So let's keep clicking on this. So we have put in a specific costume. We will get back to this. Maybe if you were to just use next costume, it will have an effect as if like bear is walking. You see? So what's happening every time I execute this code, it is basically switching to a next costume. Or if I don't want to keep clicking and do that, what we can also use is we can use a control block. We put in a forever, and maybe we put in like a small wait block as well. Now instead of 1 second, let's make it a little faster, 0.2 seconds. And then you'll see it is going to keep on just rotating between all the available costumes for a bear. So essentially what the program is doing is, since it's forever, it is going to execute the next two commands forever, which is next costume, wait for 0.2 seconds, next costume. Now if we didn't have a wait, you see it becomes too difficult to even comprehend what's happening in the sprite. Pretty cool so far. Next, let's go to switch costume. So switch costume is very useful if you want to just switch between, let's say, a particular costume. So let's decide we want to switch between costume A and costume D always, So costume A and costume D, and we want to skip all other costumes. So then what we can do is we say switch costume to A. Maybe then we say think something for 2 seconds, and then again switch costume to a particular one. So we decided A, and the next one we decided is D. So that's what is going to happen. So it is at A, and then it will think, and then it goes to D. So it will go back to A because it's executing the flag, think, and then it goes to switch costume D. Pretty neat. Now the next one is switch backdrop. So the switch backdrop, before we get there, let's look at how we can add backdrops. So if you recollect, for adding new backdrops, we click here and then we go to the choose a backdrop option. So there are different backdrops. So let's select maybe beach Malibu. We can take another one, boardwalk, and we can choose maybe Arctic Ocean somewhere. As you can see, yep, right here, Arctic Ocean. So now if we see, it has three options, and we can also select this backdrop stage and go to these backdrops to delete the plain vanilla white backdrop. So now we're only left with beach Malibu, boardwalk, and Arctic background. Let's get back to the code section. Now you don't see any code here because I've selected backdrop. We have to click back on the bear sprite to get the code, and instead of background 1, 2, 3, we can say switch to backdrop beach Malibu. So whenever I click that, wherever backdrop I was, I will get back to this. Or if we say switch to next backdrop, so it will just keep circling between the three backdrops, whatever we have chosen. Pretty neat so far. Now let's get to the same effect can be done with the next backdrop. So this was selecting in a particular cyclical order. Whenever I click, it will just oscillate through between the three different backdrops. Pretty neat so far. Next, let's take this change size by 10. So what this is going to do is this is going to grow or shrink the bear size by that much amount. So since we have set change size by +10, it will increase. As you could see, the bear is growing big. We can do -10. I believe that should shrink the bear size. So +10 is for making the bear grow bigger. -10, or whatever minus amount we want to use, is for growing the bear bigger. So let's get back to a normal size. And if we have, let's say, made the bear too big, let's make it pretty big, and then we'll use the next sprite, which is set the size to 100%. So it gets back to the normal size. So if, let's say, we have a game where we first inflate a bear or a sprite and then get back to 100%, we use the set size to 100%. The next few ones are pretty neat. They are in terms of changing the effect. So if you see, whenever I click this, the fisheye effect starts coming in, and it just goes into like as if the fisheye is expanding, and you can change the size by this amount. So you can see now it will turn slowly. If you had a bigger amount here, it will go a lot faster. So this is like a fisheye effect. And there are multiple such effects like whirl. So it will now, like a whirlpool, it is now going like this. Or you can pixelate it where you don't know what exactly the image was. You can go mosaic where they'll just duplicate these many number of bears. Or you can use brightness or ghost. There are so many other features. And if we get back to our normal sprite, we can use this clear all the graphic effects. I'll show you the mosaic one again. It's pretty cool. So if you see, one bear got into 100 bears, or then we got 1000 bears, and so on and so forth, if we want to duplicate bears. And to clear all of them, we can use this clear graphic effects. Alright, now next one is change color, and there are again many options. So here, if you want to change the bear color during a game, that our bear is getting angry or it's happy, we can always use these color palettes, and it changes the bear color with a different amount. Same thing can be used for pixelate. However, how much we want to pixelate, we'll just keep the clear graphic effect so that we can clear it every time. Brightness, so here the bear became pretty bright, and so on and so forth. There are different effects in this. They have the fisheye, whirl, pixelate effects here as well. Now the next one is pretty interesting. So that's like show and hide. So let's say, let's just see show. So the bear is already there. Now if I say hide, the bear would be hide. The bear is gone from the project window. And if I click back on hide or on show, it comes back. And the way to use this typically is like we can use an events block, or we can use a control block, and we use wait for 1 second, let's say, and then we can do a show hide. Maybe we wait for another 1 second and we hide the bear. So Now it's gone, it comes back, and we can always change the frequency of showing and going, or hiding and showing with the seconds. This will be very useful when we make complex codes, the show and hide code blocks. I just want to show that so that you know what are these for. Now the next two ones are pretty interesting. So to show this go to front layer and go to forward by X layers, let's take go to front layer. For this I need to add another sprite to the picture. So let's add another sprite called beetle. So beetle sprite, I'm just putting it on the bear nose for now. And as you see, if I click on the beetle, the code for the beetle sprite right now is empty because all the coding we have done so far was for the bear sprite. So let's go back to the bear sprite and we say go to front layer. So what it essentially does is, in the front layer right now we see beetle and the bear is behind the beetle. But if we want that bear should be front, we do a go to front. And if we want the bear to go back of the beetle, we go to back layer. So just treat that beetle is one layer, bear is another layer. Which layer we want to show our sprite, which one should be front and which one should be back is how we choose this. Same effect can be done with go to forward by one layer or go to back by one layer. So in this case bear is already forward, so we'll just say go to back by one layer and it will execute the same effect. And now since it's back, it can't go any further back. So if we had three sprites, let's take another example. Let's say if there's another ball sprite. Alright, so now let's say there are three different sprites. So if we say go to forward by one layer, so what will happen now, the bear is in front of the beetle sprite but still behind the ball sprite. And if we click it once more, it comes forward. Similarly, if we show backward, it will go back by one layer behind the ball, but it is still in front of the beetle. And if I click it once more, it goes further behind the beetle and it's now at the end of the layer. So if you click any further, it doesn't go any further than that. Now the other three variables are mainly for displaying. So it says right now the costume which we are using for bear is number 4, and we can check that by clicking on these costumes and see, yep, the one which we have selected is costume 4. So if we go back to costume 1, the bear sprite changes as well as the costume number here as well. And the other two are like backdrop number, like we are at backdrop 1. There are so many other backdrops. If we want to change the backdrop, it will show that respective number. And what is the bear size? So if let's say we were to use the size sprite again, or change the size of the sprite, change size by 10, you see the size increases. So it goes to 110, 120, and so on and so forth. So these are just some variables which could be helpful to see where exactly in the code you are. Alright, any further questions or comment? Well, with that, we come to the end of today's educational tutorial. Please do visit our disclaimer note on learnscratchlearn.wordpress.com. You can go to the disclaimer section and then read through it. I'll just keep it scrolling on the screen so that you can read through it rather than me reading through each and every word. Alright, with that, again, thank you so much for attending yet another video, and please do leave in your comments and feedback, or you can email me at learnscratchlearn@gmail.com. Thank you.